If you've ever looked at a modular synthesizer, those are the ones that look like telephone switchboards from the old days. They got a lot of wires coming out. A wire goes from point A to point B, and another wire goes from point C to point D. And in order to get a sound out of a modular synthesizer, it will make absolutely no noise if there's nothing patched. If there's not a sound source plugged in to the output that goes to your speaker, nothing's going to happen. So you have to have at least one wire. And if you want an interesting sound, it's more like 10 or 15 wires per voice. And if you want 7 or 8 voices, well, that's a bunch of wires. Repatching is this idea that, well, look, you've got 6 voices or 7 voices, but what if you want one of them to change? If you need a completely different voice, or if you want to make even a minor change to it, sometimes the idea is just you start pulling these patch cords out while you're doing a live show and repatching them. So you move maybe the sound source is, let's just pretend it's the sound of an oboe, and you're running it through a filter, which is like a tone control. And at a certain point, you don't want to use an oboe anymore. You want to use a tambourine or something. And so you have these sounds that can create these essential basic tones, but you only have this one filter that can control the tonal characteristic of the thing you're feeding it. So you just take the patch cord out of the oboe sound and you put it in the tambourine sound when it's time to have your little tambourine sound. So you're actually changing what sound's going to come out of the system while you're playing. And if you watch people like myself that are experienced doing this patching business, it's pretty fascinating to watch, because it's like a mad scientist going, pulling. It's like the old days of the switchboards in the 1900s. These ladies would have to connect one phone system to another phone system somewhere in the United States, and they did this through the switchboard. A phone line would come in one side, they'd take a patch cord and patch it, literally patch, Austin, Texas to New York City through a wire. That's why they're call them patch cords. And modular synthesizers sort of acquired the same terminology. So you take a sound and you reroute it live while you're doing the show. And some people do a lot of patch changing. Some people start with nothing patched, so their synthesizer sits there doing absolutely nothing at the beginning of a show, and then they just do one patch at a time until the sound gets more and more complex. And that's cool, but for the first 5 or 10 minutes, it's usually kind of boring. So I always start pre-patched, but during the show, you will watch me moving chords around, taking them out of one place and moving it to another.